Some of them, yes. And some of them, listen, we had to take an educated guess. We have a lot of steps to go through with some of the characters, and other of the characters we've kind of designed.
VD here, welcome back to the YouTube channel, and in this video we are talking about Season 1 of Creature Commandos. We're going to break down and explain that ending with insights from the cast and James Gunn. We're going to talk about some of the DC Comics Easter eggs packed into this episode, and we're going to talk about how we know the DC Universe has been set up by Creature Commandos so far. Plus, at the end, I'll share my thoughts on this season as a whole, so please continue to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and let's jump in. First of all, most episodes of Creature Commandos were centered around one character and delivering their backstory, and the finale of Season 1 was centered around Nina Mazursky. Nina Mazursky is hands down and unsurprisingly the most innocent member of the Creature Commando squad. And very interestingly, James Gunn made her DC Universe origin story based on a lie told about her origin story on the pages of DC Comics. In the source material, Nina was taken in and adopted by Myron Mazursky, who formed Project M, aka the Creature Commandos, in their earliest days. He told her that she was born with a lung disease and he was her biological father, and that his work to save her turned her into one of the creatures. In the series from Gunn now, Nina was indeed born a human to Edward Mazursky, and he poured his technology and knowledge into saving her from a lung disease and made her only able to breathe underwater. And even though she can breathe underwater, she can't survive a knife attack. This, of course, means the shocking death at the end of Season 1 of Creature Commandos is Nina Mazursky. And honestly, this is so sad. It makes you want to cry enough tears that you could drown Weasel in them. And while we're all sad about it, the bride is really furious about the whole thing because Nina was pretty much her only friend, so she really is going to go take that out on Princess Alana and get her revenge. Before doing so, she does see a book on the shelf by Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley is the creator of Frankenstein and the Bride in works of fiction. The conversation between the bride and Princess Alana is when the whole plot of Creature Commandos is kind of laid out for you to understand. Yes, the princess really did want to be an apocalyptic dictator. Yes, Clayface posed as Dr. McPherson to undermine her judgment about Xerxes. Yes, the princess was riding Rick Flag because she wanted him to trust her. And yes, in the end, it is confirmed that Princess Alana is evil and wants to rule the world, but ultimately that was never super fleshed out, kind of like her brains were all over the wall instead. There are a few more Easter eggs in this episode. For example, Star City is referenced several times. Star City is, of course, the home of Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, and given how James Gunn is fleshing this whole thing out as a fully formed DC universe where the heroes are already heroing and the villains are already villaining, we can assume Star City is currently home to a goateed vigilante known as the Green Arrow. Other books in Alana's bookshelf are stories of love and revenge and people being treated certain ways because of differences in appearance, like Don Quixote and Wuthering Heights. The Bride called Dr. Phosphorus Ghost Rider, which confirms the existence of Marvel Comics in this DC universe. I already mentioned Star City showing up earlier in this video, but this series did also give us our first look at Gotham City and Batman in the DC universe, along with plenty of other heroes when we had that World War III flash forward. So I asked James Gunn about the character designs, and I don't think we can bank too much on this being what they'll actually look like. I recognize that Superman suit. We've seen it.
Yeah.
But there's also other heroes like Batman and stuff. So I would just love to know, did you already consider these are sort of designs for future projects, or is this...
Some of them.
Okay.
Some of them. Some of them, yes. And some of them, listen, we had to take an educated guess. We have a lot of steps to go through with some of the characters, and other of the characters we've kind of designed. So, yes, some of them are kind of an educated guess. I wouldn't take everything as, if you see certain characters, I'm not going to take that every single one of them is going to look like that in their physical incarnations down the road. But it's not far off.
When Weasel tried to warn the princess of Nina's impending attack, he started to flail because he can't swim, which harkens right back to him being thought to have totally drowned in the opening of the Suicide Squad movie, where we learned he can't swim. And at the end of the season, we see the Creature Commandos got a living situation upgrade in the Belle Reve prison, and we see characters like Atten Callus, a mummified member of the Creature Commando stories and comics. We got Nosferatu. Originally, I thought this would be She-Bat, the mutated widow wife of Man-Bat, but it's actually Nosferatu, a scheming vampire from the pages of DC Comics who has been around since 1998. King Shark, who we can assume is a carryover / continuation of the version we saw in Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and this G.I. Robot is actually a revived version of G.I. Robot from earlier in the series. James Gunn has confirmed that G.I. Robot is still alive and he is new and improved and has a whole new body to make him seemingly even more powerful. So how does Creature Commandos set up the future of the DC universe? First of all, obviously we know this show is getting a season 2 already, which is very exciting. We know that Steve Agee's Economos, who played a role here, will go on to appear in Peacemaker season 2, and we know that Frank Grillo will play Rick Flag Sr. in the Superman movie in July before going on to play the part again in Peacemaker season 2.
I've been on all those sets, and that never happens in this town.
So did you get like a full debriefing on like, all right, you're going from this to that, here's the arc, like, was it all at once?
No,
Did it evolve over time?
not a full debriefing. It was just he just calls you and tells you this is what's happening. Yeah, and I'm from the very beginning when he called me, I was like, hey, whatever it is, I'm in. Come to find out, I'm in almost all the episodes, and a big part of the through line of the theme of the whole season, and it's like, oh my God, I mean,
Well, I think the answer to this might be obvious, but what does Rick Flag think of Peacemaker? And you're a trained wrestler and fighter. John Cena, he's done a little bit of wrestling.
As John Cena says, he does Shakespeare wrestling.
It's sometimes tragic.
Part of my whole existence, I don't know, what can I say? Part of my whole...
You're not fond of.
I'm not fond of him.
Viola Davis and her Amanda Waller character are expected to be the star of a series titled Waller on Max, though no release date has been given. And Themyscira is supposed to be the focus of the Paradise Lost series coming to Max, which James Gunn and Peter Safran announced when they first released their slate for the Gods and Monsters part of the DC Universe. Clayface will appear in an upcoming movie written by Dr. Sleep's Mike Flanagan. And when I talked to DC's co-CEO Peter Safran at the Superman trailer preview event, he said, Clayface is not going to be a super campy movie. It's actually going to be more like The Fly for DC. Beyond all of that, we do know that actors cast in animated roles for the DC Universe are expected to play them in live action. We just don't know when and where we'll see these characters pop up again yet, aside from Season 2 of Creature Commandos. I, for one, really want to see the Bride in live action immediately, and also I want to see these characters as Fortnite skins, and I really enjoyed them and their designs, and I hope to see them all again really soon. As for a review, I thought the series was quite fantastic. I think it peaked in episode 4 for me. I thought the Weasel episode had so much emotional depth that I found it to be the most engaging and the most perspective shifting of the whole thing. And then I really loved the Rick Flag and Frankenstein dynamic in episode 5. 6, the Phosphorus stuff was really good. The Bride in that early episode that dove into her backstory just really set the tone for how emotional and fearless this show was going to be with sort of heavy material. And then the Bride ended up being my favorite character of the whole thing. I think the Nina Mazursky tragedy by the time we got to episode 7 was really sad, but I had experienced so many tragedies with these characters that maybe that's why it didn't hit me as hard. And maybe it hit other people, but I thought it was really powerful. It was really motivating for the Bride. It was a catalyst. And I am sad to see Nina go. I was really sad to see what happened to her dad, but I felt like maybe it had become a little bit formulaic at that point. All these characters came from tragedy and loss and miscommunication and misunderstanding and judgment causing them to be part of the Creature Commandos team. And I really loved Frankenstein. I think what David Arbor did with that character was incredible. I mean, he's hilarious voicing the part. I know that they redesigned Frankenstein once they heard David Arbor's work in the part, and I just had so much fun watching him and hating him. And overall, I just think all these characters made for a really rich story. I didn't really care for the gratuitous violence that was packed into this. It didn't take me out, but it certainly didn't make things better for me. That's not something I prefer. I enjoyed the animation of the show quite thoroughly, and I just think what James Gunn does best is flesh out characters and get you attached to them. And I like how he took some comic stories and manipulated them and kind of enhanced them for a new medium and kind of just flipped it just enough to respect the source material, but also tell a fresh story. And it's sometimes just outright pull, fictional locations and use them really well, better than they were ever used in comics. And Pekolistan was never super relevant in books, and we're going to see that in Superman as well. So I like where the DC Universe is going. I really enjoy what Creature Commandos did here early on, and for all those reasons, I do think the one thing that could have been better was the villain story. We could have had more of an understanding of why Alana was evil, why she wanted world domination, and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, I don't really have anything to complain about. I think the show was very, very good, thanks to the characters being so rich and carrying the show. And for that reason, I'm giving Creature Commandos a 9 out of 10. What did you think of Creature Commandos Season 1? Share your 10 score in the comment section and let me know if there's any Easter eggs you caught and you want to talk more about. Please continue to subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't watched my interview with the Creature Commandos cast and James Gunn, it's available now on the channel and on the Face Hero podcast on all major podcast platforms. It's a ton of fun, and I hope you'll watch it and enjoy. I'll see you in the next video.